Good. All right, hello everybody, and welcome to I don't know where I'm going to post this, whether it's going to be Almamac or the other show that I'm doing. But anyway, we have a very special guest. We have Ben Davis Purcell. Uh, Ben was in the same lab as me for a long time, soft matter lab. But what you did an internship during your undergrad in particle physics, and
Yeah,
then you got your master's in my lab, and now you're doing a PhD not in soft matter.
right. Yeah. But it's the two opposite ends of the physics spectrum. I mean, at least it's still physics, although we cross over a lot with soft matter into chemistry and biology and that sort of thing. But yeah, I jumped around from side to side for a while before settling into back to that original far side. Yeah, it was an interesting path.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked when you decided to go this direction after your master's because I mean, you did so well with soft matter and you seemed to really enjoy it. But I guess you follow your heart.
Yeah, well, I wanted to treat the masters as another learning opportunity to dive deep into something else and then decide from there what I wanted to do with a PhD and if I decided to do a PhD because I really like research in general. I didn't want to just do a PhD to do a PhD. Um, so I also didn't want to just continue on to do something that I've already been doing with a PhD. You want to really make sure you know you want to do something. And I think the best way to do that is to try out something completely different. So I was super lucky to get a bunch of different research positions through undergrad over co-op or just summer jobs. And then I was able to work with you with Kari in actually as a summer student first. I did my last co-op term in soft condensed matter at McMaster with Kari's lab, and then continued on for my master's. And then that sort of totaled like 3 years with soft matter, and like I had a total of like 3 or 4 years of particle physics experience. So then I would have like these 2, 3, or 4 year sets of data that then I could then take a year off. My plan was always to take a year off after that, which I did working at McMaster outside of research, and then if I was going to do a PhD, make sure I really wanted to. I still had that drive after the year off, and then go where my heart was really pulling me, which ended up being particle physics. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice that like this is like a huge difference between the states, it seems, is that you can use your master's as this sort of test case, test scenario, data collection opportunity. I think a lot of people, once they leave their undergrad, they're kind of forced into a full 6 to 7 year hike.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, yeah, being here right now, I'm living in France, Ferney-Voltaire. Technically, I'm sure I say that wrong every time, but nothing I can do about that. Um, right on the border of Switzerland because I'm working at CERN. I do experimental particle physics research, so I'm on the ATLAS experiment, which is located at CERN. So I live, I don't know, depending which direction, 10-minute walk from the Swiss border and 10, 20 minute bike ride from the lab. You live in France because it's cheaper than living in Switzerland. But there are so many Americans over here, grad students or otherwise that I meet, which is really cool. And it's like they have a lot of them. They either really like it and they're happy and they're like either postdocs or happy about continuing, or they're quite unfortunately jaded because they have been doing the same thing for so long, even though they're still young, right? They're still like our age. But they've been doing this. They've a professor pulled them in maybe when they're in second year undergrad to start doing summer research positions, and then you don't really get many opportunities in the U.S. to jump around. You're there with your supervisor, and then bam, bam, okay, you do 2 years of undergrad research. Like, all right, here, come work with me for a PhD. Then you're locked in for 6 years because there's no masters. So a lot of them have been doing this already for 5 or 6 years, and now they're gonna get their PhD, but they're just sick and tired of it. And they're like, yeah, I'm just getting out of here as fast as possible. And then you're losing out on all the other things about the PhD. You should never just want to do it and get out as soon as possible. You want to be able to. There's many more learning experiences in a PhD than just doing your research, trying to write some papers and getting out. And I think you miss that if you have that unfortunate jaded feeling. So I think we're really lucky in Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a terrifying proposition. The way you describe it, even starting in second year, uh, I can't imagine what would I be doing now if I had to lock in second year and I was still doing that thing. Probably something stupid. I don't know. So what school are you at right now, though? You're not enrolled in France, right? You're enrolled in a Canadian university, and you're
Yeah. I go to Carleton University in Ottawa. Although I've only lived in Ottawa for a total of 8 months. I've technically been attending there for almost 2 years. Yeah.
okay. So
I've lived in France longer than I lived in Ottawa. Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
So who's your supervisor, and maybe can you tell me a little bit how you get into France from Carleton? Like, what's the connection? How does that process work?
Yeah. Okay. So I guess let's start when I was working at McMaster. I was really lucky to get an awesome job, exactly what I wanted to be doing, and it was a 1-year temporary position filling in for our friend who was on maternity leave. Basically teaching first-year physics and helping to run the first-year physics program, along with some other stuff in physics administration. And so I had this job, and so then on the side, I could, in a more relaxed way, use my previous particle physics contacts. At that time, I decided I wanted to do particle physics and find a good supervisor. And even though I decided I wanted to do a PhD, I was determined that I wasn't just going to do a PhD. If I didn't find a supervisor that was a good fit, then I would continue on trying to get more of these teaching style positions, because I was also very happy doing that. So I had some really good contacts. My main one in particle physics being Cliff Burgess from McMaster. So he was my undergrad thesis supervisor. He did theoretical particle physics. I had 8 months of theoretical particle physics. That was incredibly tough and awesome experience, but I moved over to experiment after that. And before that, he set me up with some really good contacts. And so I was able to then go and visit a few different schools with a few different potential supervisors, and they were all really good. But my Carleton supervisor is where we just had a really good connection right away, and she really showed that she cared and spent the full day basically going out for lunch with just me, then going on a nice couple-hour walk around campus, introducing me to other professors and organizing a grad student drinks night out for me. And that whole experience, and the fact that we could just get along and chat about tons of things that weren't physics was great. So I knew that I was going to go stick with her. Her name is Manuela Vinkter. And so she's been a long-time professor on ATLAS, on the ATLAS experiment, which is one of the two major detector experiments at CERN, which means they look at basically all things that are created in the proton-proton collisions at the Large Hadron Collider. Not really looking for anything specific, but just everything that happens in those explosions of protons. Let's observe it and see what we can figure out. So I decided to go to Carleton, and the way we set it up also was exactly how I would like to do it, and that my first 8 months were entirely PhD courses and TAing. So I got all my PhD classes out of the way, didn't have to do any research, which is really good to be able to focus, especially because I had been out of particle physics for about 5 years. So the courses like taking quantum field theory when I hadn't even taken quantum mechanics in like 4 years was quite difficult. So that I really needed that time to focus. There's many late nights, but I mean, I knew that going into it, that it would be tough. And it was just 8 months. And then I did my PhD comprehensive exams as well. The way it works at Carleton is you just do all that right away. So passed my PhD comprehensive exams. And then about halfway through my semester, or I guess my total 8 months there, my supervisor, Manuela, let me know that she had been offered or basically asked to become the deputy spokesperson of the ATLAS experiment. So ATLAS is a huge international collaboration. There's about 3,000 active members and even more that are technically still members. So it's really like the government of a small city, the way it's all set up. They've got a spokesperson and then 2 deputies, and then there's like a collaboration board, which is effectively the Senate, where you have to pass everything through the Senate, where you have the main governing body and then your Senate that sort of passes the laws officially. And there's all these smaller structures that go down for groups, one group looking at this specific thing, another group. So it's a huge web like this. It's a really interesting government structure. And she'd been a part of it for a long time. So she basically was asked to be effectively second in charge. And so she accepted. And so then I hadn't even started doing research yet. And then in March, she was headed off to CERN for 2 years. So because to be second in charge, you have to be at CERN full time. So then she let me know because at that time I was her only PhD student. So she's like, I'm going to be there, and it would be great if you could come for as long as you can. I'm like, fantastic, sign me up. I'll go as soon as I've done my classes. So that's how it worked out. So I finished my exams in my PhD qualifying exams in May, and then June 1st I flew to Geneva, which is the closest airport, and I was then that's how I made it here. It's really just to be at CERN, right? This is the place to be for doing, well, obviously ATLAS, because that is where literally the experiment is, but it's just the biggest place in the world for particle physics, the biggest particle physics lab in the world. So there's just tons of people coming in and out, theory, you get tons of colloquia all through the day. It's so cool. I've seen like 3 Nobel laureates give talks already. They're physics Nobel Prize winners. So it's just super, super lucky. I mean, it's not like I did any of this for myself. Just the way it all worked out was I couldn't have asked it to be any better.
So certainly when you were going through your interviews with your supervisor, you knew her connection with ATLAS. Was there any sense, like when you were accepting, that you were going to spend time at CERN and not LIGO, LHC?
Yeah, the LHC at CERN. Yeah, the ATLAS has subdivisions in every main country that's associated with. I think Canada has 11 different universities that have people associated with ATLAS. So ATLAS Canada is sort of a subdivision of ATLAS, and they have a really nice setup in that every PhD student on ATLAS in Canada will get funding through this special ATLAS Canada fund that allows you to go and be there for 1 year. So I knew this was always a possibility. It would have been a possibility no matter who I was with, but now with her getting this new role, it was really encouraged, and it was encouraged to happen as soon as possible. And I got to go for longer than that year as well. So I mean, I got there in June, and I'm going to be here until the end of August, and then probably back next summer and the summer after that as well. So yeah, but yeah, I always knew it would be 1 year. At least you have that option, and of course. I think if there's no reason to say, there's no specific reason to say no. Obviously, everybody has different situations, different things that pull them back home, which is of course great. But I didn't have anything like that, so I'm always in the mindset to just say yes to these kind of opportunities.
Yeah, if I know anything about you, you'll probably say yes if it involves going somewhere and trying something brand new. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so 2 options. I know that you were giving a Pint of Science talk, and I assume that it's going to be about the research you're doing now. Is that true?
Roughly.
Okay.
So yes and no. That is a roughly loaded question because it depends what your target audience is, right?
Mine or Pint of Science?
Well, and that is a more general thing. Yeah, like so when you right, yeah, and especially in particle physics, there can be, unfortunately, a lot of barriers to get right into the current research that you are doing. Some of those are that to develop all the ideas that get into why you care about this specific decay that you can spend years working on. Like if I said this is not what I'm doing, but let's say I study the Higgs decaying to 4 muons, then okay, I mean, first of all, that there's a good chance that Higgs to 4 muons doesn't mean anything to a non-particle physicist, right?
Yeah.
But if you were to give a talk on somebody's research who was doing that, they could easily give a half an hour more general talk on just the steps that they were doing in that analysis to then how you isolate this Higgs to 4 muon signal. but really most of the time you're going to be taking multiple steps back to still generally talk about your research, but you're not talking about the specifics of it. And then the second barrier is that because Atlas is so huge and we have this detailed government structure, a result that you are working on cannot just be released to the public right away, in that if I am working on a paper right now, let's say, and there are plots going into that paper, those plots have to be approved by the Atlas Collaboration Board first before then coming out to the public, because anything that you do, you're representing the entire collaboration as a whole. Mm-hmm. So if there was like a mistake in that plot or something like that, then it would look bad on the whole collaboration. So this is certainly something that I think is nicer in something like soft condensed matter, whereas we can like rush to finish an experiment and make the plots for it like a week before APS, let's say, if we have to, right? A week before a big conference. And then it's, oh yeah, awesome, this works. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go out and present it. That wouldn't be the case with Atlas. You're normally looking at like at minimum a 3-month delay between those results before then when you present them at a conference.
Yeah, I guess the big difference in our group, it's like if you show something ahead of time, then you get the approval of one person, our supervisor. It's only between you two. And for you, it's like, okay, well, you're representing, I don't know, thousands of people.
Right. Yeah. So you have to get the approval of your own group, which you work in locally. And then, so maybe you're in a small person group as part of a larger 30-person group. So in my case, I'm working as part of a small 4-person team that then we are part of the larger sort of 25-person team. Mm-hmm. And then that 25-person team is part of a larger 100-ish person group. And then once that 100-person-ish group would approve it, it has to go out to then the entire collaboration sort of paper or conference approval board. So all those steps take time.
Yeah. Okay. So with that in mind, let's take your research from the Pint of Science perspective. So do you want to tell me a little bit about Pint of Science? You're presenting something next week, right?
Yeah. Monday, almost exactly a week from now to the exact time. I believe it is at 3:30 Eastern time. At least that's what the schedule says online right now. But yeah, that'll all be sent out. I'll get the same Google or whatever the Crowdcast is the application we will use. Yeah, I'll get the same notification as everybody else. Yeah. Hopefully I know a little bit more in advance, but I'll be ready. Yeah.
Cool.
And then I am the way that this Pint of Science is working is that they've added in a section dubbed as Pint of Milk, which is focused more supposed to be, or the way I think about it is more of a completely general audience, whereas the Pint of Science is normally meant to be, you're drinking it, you're having a beer with the whole conversation, and maybe you're getting into more adult topics, let's say. Whereas, if you there's going to be some awesome presentations. It looks like they really did the organizing committee did a fantastic job. The whole festival, the 3-day festival looks amazing. But for example, there's like one of the speakers is presenting on the science of online dating, right? So that would not be a talk that you would give to an audience that you'd expect to have many kids in it, right? So I am actually in the Pint of Milk section. So my talk is all ages, or at least we were told that the target audience is roughly 10 to 20, which is already a huge range in itself, but then still for adults as well. So I am trying to make this very basic, but not too simple for people who maybe know a little bit more, but I still want everybody to be able to follow along and maybe laugh a little and have fun. And, I think the point is less to say what I am specifically studying, but more to get people excited about science and physics and, CERN, for example, which is a big buzzword, but who knows what really goes on there, right? So those are sort of the more big picture ideas that I think are important to hit on this type of thing. And then, yeah, when there's follow-up questions or, more details, or I'd always be available after, I'm always happy to go into as much depth as possible.
Okay.
So all that is to say, roughly, I want to just explain how experimental particle physics works, and more specifically, collider physics. What does it mean to try and look for fundamental particles?
Okay, so maybe we can do something fun. For the physicsy people who kind of know physics already, how would you describe in maybe a couple sentences what you personally research? And then maybe can you tell us from the pint of milk perspective what you do?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. This is challenging. Yeah.
Not to put you on the spot, but I would like to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Great. Well, that's what I'm here, right? Yeah. This whole thing is being put on the spot. No, I love being put on the spot. Oh, well, one of my dreams. Okay. So we in particle physics, or in experimental particle physics at ATLAS, we are a detector centered around the Large Hadron Collider beamline that collides protons into each other. So you have two protons colliding, you make a big explosion, and then whatever that energy was that you created, any set of particles that have mass that are less than or equal to the total energy created in that explosion is possible to be created. This is everything, including the particles we know and all the particles that we don't know, and then the particles that we know that exist but that we haven't seen yet. So those are sort of three broad categories. Stuff we've seen but need to measure better, stuff we know that exists that we haven't seen, and stuff that we haven't seen that might not even exist. So I work on standard model physics, which is the particles that we know very well. And so I'm working on precision measurements of standard model particles. So specifically, I'm looking at the electroweak force, particles from the electroweak force, which are particles that come from nuclear decays. So for example, neutrinos are always involved in the electroweak force. And so the overall goal of my thesis is to better measure the mass of one of the force-carrying particles of the electroweak force, which is called the W boson. And this is important because right now we have theory measurements, or theory, you make calculations, and those have error bars associated with them. So let's say the theory calculation or measurement with error is right here, and then our standard model best experiment right now of the mass of this W boson is like right here. But we know we can make these error bars better. So that's what we're working to do. And so when we do that, we'll either make the error bars better this way, or we'll make them better this way. So if we make them better this way, then now we're completely consistent with theory, and okay, everything is as theory predicts. Or we'll make the error bars better this way, and then now we've got a discrepancy with theory. That means that even though we just look in the standard model sector where we know what exists, there's a discrepancy between theory and experiment, and the experiment has to be right. It's what we see. So now there is something that we don't understand about the standard model. So that's really when you do particle physics, you are trying to understand the standard model, and more importantly, you're trying to break it to find new physics.
Cool. And okay, so quick question before we get into pint of milk. So the stuff that you're doing, you're using the data that comes from these big giant experiments, and tons of other groups use the same data, looking at different things too?
So the way it works is that the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, which you can sort of think of as like an independent organization that is through CERN. I mean, the LHC is just the proton beamline. But that is in charge of, I mean, there's ridiculous engineering involved in that, like way beyond me. But they're in charge of sending the protons into each other and slamming them in each other. Then the experiments are built, the main experiments are at 4 different points around the circumference of this beamline. And so, but each experiment might want something a little bit different. Like I'll send my protons, send a little bit more protons, send protons faster, slower, whatever. And so it's sort of like applying for specific types of protons that you want. So each of the 4 experiments does that. But then, so the data that we get at ATLAS is only ATLAS sees the ATLAS data.
Okay.
But the data that we see is going to be very similar to the data that CMS, which is the other large experiment comparable in size to Atlas, it's going to be very similar to what CMS sees. The differences are in how the detector itself is built, which allows you to see some things better and some things a little bit worse.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I guess if there was like this magic detector that could detect everything all at once, you could in theory pool the data and send it off to every different group, but
yeah, well, and you do, yeah. So,
yeah.
and for really, really important measurements, you just combine all the worldwide data, make sure you are doing this in a rigorous statistical way, and then that's how you get when you look up these sort of standard or particle physics precision papers, there's always like a world average, and then there's like the individual experiments. The world average is always the best. And so, yeah, I mean, in the end, everyone's trying to work together to make the best measurement as possible. Yeah.
Right. Cool. All right. I was going to say, all right, Ben, dumb it down, but that's not exactly what you're doing. You're explaining a slightly different part of the science in a sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all correct, right? It's not like dumb it down is a nice, I think some people really, really dislike that phrase. I think it's fine, right? But yeah, you don't want to imply that the people listening are dumb. It's just that, yeah, a lot of times you need prior knowledge, right? Like,
yeah.
For example, I am never going to say the word standard model, or at least I don't think I will. I won't. I may, if somebody asks in detail about that, but there's not going to be the word standard model coming up in my talk, because I mean, maybe you've heard about that, but in order to be able to explain it so that it's understandable, if you don't have the background knowledge, it takes too much time, and it can detract from the main point, right? And so, the main point of what is going on at CERN and why we care is, well, we are trying to study the smallest things that make up the universe, right? Whenever you have something, you can always look or ask the question, is there something smaller than this? Is there something, the correct word is more fundamental, or what is the most fundamental thing, or thing, really what we say is particle, right? So that's where particle physics comes from. A particle just means a single entity, right? So what is the fundamental particle or particles associated with some interaction? And by interaction, an interaction is like, okay, bam, there you go. That was actually there. That is a particle collider. That is a macro version of what happens at the Large Hadron Collider. I have a whole bunch of particles. I mean, really, these are just, my hands are just a whole bunch of protons and electrons, and they just slammed into each other, right? If you zoomed in really closely, yeah, you're creating little particles. Probably most of those particles, there's little bits of skin that are falling off, maybe a little bit of sweat, but you could study that if you wanted to, right? So
it sounds horrible.
Yeah, I mean, well, it sounds like a soft matter experiment, actually.
Actually, yeah, now I'm in. I'm sold.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Right, but so how do you find the most fundamental thing? How do you know that you're not at the most fundamental particle yet? And then why do we care? Why do we care what are the tiniest things that make up everything in the universe are? And for that, I always like to go back to, well, I mean, 100 years ago, why did we care what an electron was? Nobody knew anything about that. An electron is, in fact, a fundamental particle, meaning that there's nothing, as far as we know, inside an electron. You can't break an electron into any smaller pieces. And this was being studied and understood, like, oh, if you move a magnet by an electron, but really, I mean, a series of electrons, so current in a wire is what was done. But if you move a magnet along that, then okay, the way that the electrons move changes. Well, people at the time were like, who cares? That's great. You're wasting our time and money doing this. But, then 30, 50 years later, now there's electricity and nobody thinks twice about what an electron is, or most people probably don't even think about how something like a laptop works. But when you really try and think about it, it's insane. How does a laptop work, right? It's crazy. It's really fundamentally just all these electrons moving through this huge machine, but there's billions of electrons inside it. And that we would have never got there if it wasn't for studying these fundamental particles. If we understand the most fundamental, then we can learn how to use them in ways that are beneficial to everybody, right? So there's incredible medical applications that have come out of particle physics research, such as creating different particles that are specifically used to treat cancer, right? So that is a really nice application. So that's going to be my rough point. How do we look at these smallest things, and then why do we care? Yeah. Okay. And hopefully that's a point that you don't need all the background physics to be interested in that and care about it. And not everybody wants to get that background in physics or needs to, but they still shouldn't be scared away from thinking this is really cool and from supporting the research. Right? Mm-hmm. They need to think it's cool and know why it's important. And nobody is any less off for not being a scientist or not being a physicist if they don't want to, right? But I think many things that I don't do completely unrelated to science are really cool. And I want other people to think that science is really cool too. And of course, I would love to encourage more people to get into science and physics as well.
Cool. I like it. I like the way you described particles as basically there's nothing that is inside of the particle. That's just the fundamental bit. Yeah, there's no question there, I guess. That's basically the idea, though, right? A particle is something that there's nothing that makes up. So were there ever what we thought were particles and then we found out that they weren't particles because they had smaller bits?
Yeah, absolutely.
Incorrectly call something a particle?
So also, first of all, just particle. Specifically, you want to say fundamental particle there. When you're saying fundamental, it means there's nothing smaller. Particle, a particle is something that the technical definition is like something that you'd write down when you're doing the theory behind it as like a single entity. But even when you're doing that, you can often treat a particle as, it can still often have smaller things, but yeah, it's...
Okay. For example, is the fundamental aspect.
Right. Fundamental means there absolutely is nothing smaller than that particle. So a fundamental particle, yeah. And so, yeah, when we first discovered what a proton was, for example, we thought protons were fundamental. We didn't think there was anything inside of them, or they couldn't be broken down into any smaller pieces, because we already had found electrons. We knew what electrons were. We were like, okay, electrons have a negative charge and protons have a positive charge. And that's nice. They work together. They attract each other. We knew at that time, or that we were learning, chemistry is all effectively, I don't want to make any chemists mad here, but it's pretty much the interactions between the protons and electrons and how they bond together to make larger molecules and that sort of thing. So we didn't think protons could be any smaller, but well, how do you try and look inside something? You have to, get to a big enough energy to try and rip it apart. And so you eventually slammed protons into each other, and lo and behold, they are made of more fundamental particles called quarks. So yes, there are a few different examples of this throughout history. Yeah, there's a cool comic that I like that I'm going to show in my talk. That's just like two boulders being rolled down a hill. Like, these are the smallest particles that we have, and then bam, they break in half. Oh, look, small rock is more fundamental. I don't know. I don't believe you. What if that? Let's try it again. Oh yeah, smaller. And then that's really all particle physicists are doing. Yeah.
Cool. I think I've read in some of those pop science particle physics books that like the ancient Greeks or something like that, their model of the universe was like an object, say like a rock or whatever, was made of rock particles, and there was just like a fundamental thing, the rock particle, and like trees were the tree particle.
Yeah.
If you just keep cutting the rock in half and in half and in half, you would just get to the smallest rock, and that's it.
Right. Yeah. The smallest rock. But what is the smallest rock? So then, but yeah, sure, that makes sense if you're grouping all rocks to be the exact same thing. Yeah. But that I've heard that before too, and then it's right. But then you reach a point where you can't break the rock down into smaller things, and so then that's your fundamental rock. But
That would make
what's
for like a
inside that.
very complicated universe because everything is its own thing, I guess. And I guess the cool thing about the standard model maybe is that instead of having like one of everything is its own thing, it's actually just you have a couple of different Legos that build everything. That's kind of
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, yeah, the standard model contains, I don't know, something like 11 unique particles if you don't include their antiparticles. And but really everything that we see on a day-to-day basis and interact with comes from electrons and protons. Protons are made up of quarks, specifically two up quarks and a down quark. So up and down quarks, there are actually 6 quarks in total. But in day-to-day life, everything that we touch around us, we are basically just interacting with electrons, up quarks, and down quarks, and that's really it. Which is crazy to think that everything is built out of those 3 fundamental particles.
yeah, such a small sliver of the possible things you could interact with, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. So the way that the Pint of Science thing is structured is that you have another presenter that you're partnered with. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. I think, well, specifically for this pint of milk style session, there's going to be a speaker and then a trivia interactive type activity, and then the second speaker, and then something like a general Q&A or yeah, I'm not really sure what the total length of time is even.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, there are two speakers in each session.
Okay. And so who are you partnered with?
Yeah, so I'm super lucky and somehow got partnered with Dr. Dave Williams, who is an astronaut, a Canadian astronaut who's got he's the Canadian record for longest spacewalk, which is really cool. He was up in space twice, and I mean, so the astronaut thing is crazy, but he also has done aquanautics, so he's been down deep to the bottom of the ocean to do other sort of research on comparing like how the bottom of the ocean is like being out in space. And on top of that, he's a trained medical doctor. That's what he did his university degrees in. But yeah, I mean, the fact that he's an astronaut is obviously just so cool and is the big selling point of the session. So I'm going to first of all, I'm going to present first in our session so that everybody just doesn't watch him and then just go do something else because it's just some lowly PhD student after. But it's really cool to be with him, and we've gotten to chat in person as well to try and design the session such that there's some nice flow between us. And it was funny for me when the organizer, the main the head of Pint of Science Canada, Alexandra, when she said that the other person in the session was going to be Dave, because 10 years ago when I was in first year undergrad, Dave came in and gave a talk for our space unit of class. I was in this unique program at McMaster called Integrated Science, where you do all sciences in this sort of class of just 40 students going around doing everything together. So he came in and gave a talk for a space unit, and so that was like that was pretty cool because I actually put a face to him. I'm like, oh, wow, now I'm actually, this is like so cool. It's come like full circle 10 years later that now I'm going to be on stage with you. So, well, on this virtual stage at least. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. So I guess you guys are going to be talking about different things, obviously. I think in some of the other cases, it's been like, at least when we hosted it in Hamilton, it would be like a student and their supervisor. So the night was very much all on topic, but it seems like you're going from the smallest to potentially, well, you said he's a medical doctor, so his research probably isn't even physics based, or do you know?
He's going to be talking about, I mean, being an astronaut and space.
Right.
So specifically, what's it like to be on the International Space Station? I think he said he was going to delve a little bit into the opportunities of humans on Mars. So definitely our local solar system, but space is to focus. I mean, that's almost, I think that's the title of our session is something like from the big to the small.
Nice. Classic.
Yeah.
The classic meetup.
Yeah.
And so you saw him in person to plan this?
Yeah. We had a little Zoom chat last week, and I think we'll do that again just to make sure we test out the software. He's got some sweet videos from space that he wants to be able to show. So he wants to got to make sure the technology is working. Yeah. I mean, if it works from space, how can it not work from here? Come on.
That was my attempt to entrap you from this whole COVID thing, whether you saw him in person or face to face or what.
I see. Yeah.
Wait, is he in space right now?
No, unfortunately not. Yeah, I guess that was left pretty ambiguous there. He very well could have been the way I said that. No, he's
okay.
He's Canadian. He's from Oakville actually, so he lives quite close to McMaster University. In fact, yeah.
Okay, cool, nice. Yeah. I wonder what he's going to say if somebody's going to ask him what's scarier, deep sea or outer space.
That's an awesome question.
I feel like it's close.
I hope somebody does. Maybe I'm going to have to probe him on that because
I wonder what's more dangerous, you know?
What is more? Yeah. Well, yeah. Huh.
They're kind of the complete opposite. You're like messing around with vacuum versus like ultra high pressures.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely the complete opposite in that sense. Yeah,
I'm excited to see the overlap because those are very opposite, but I guess a lot of the phenomenon is going to be similar.
And like the difficulty in communication would be similar, and the isolation would be similar, right? It's just like you and one other person for a long amount of time.
Yeah, and those freaky fish down there. That's.
Yeah.
All right, we answered the question right there. It's underwater because the fish are really scary.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it is just dark as well in both of those places. It's just like the absence of light. But what is it? In space, it's like the absence of light because there's nothing for the light to bounce off of for you to be able to see. Whereas in underwater, it's the absence of light because there's so many layers of water that just have blocked out all the light that there's just nothing down there. Yeah, I think water would be scarier myself because, well, I think it's cool. I think space is more cool. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure for me, I guess.
Yeah. For sure. Objective. You're right. Yeah.
Hey, we figured it out. You heard it here first.
Yeah. Don't even need the question anymore.
Cool. Well, this sounds like a really good session. I'm excited to tune in. And so this is going to be on Monday, and we'll put the details in the show notes and links and everything. Do we have to pre-register or anything like that?
Oh, yes. It is important to pre-register. The whole event is completely free, but you have to register for each day individually. Okay. The main thing is that you get the link to the Crowdcast application. It's a web-based platform as opposed to using something like Zoom, so nobody needs to have their own application downloaded. But yeah, you have to get a specific email for the link to the webcast. So that's the main point of registration, but it also sends you, calendar notifications when it's coming up. So yeah, it's important to register for each day individually, and you can do that right from the pintofscience.ca/program page. And the schedule is unbelievable, really. I mean, the organizing committee just went above and beyond and got some fantastic scientists across all sorts of different disciplines. And I'm going to be doing my best to stay up for the late night sessions. Well, okay, they're not late night. The evening sessions for the Eastern Standard Time Zone folks, but it will be starting at 2 a.m. for me. But I really want to stay up because it's so. I'm excited just seeing the scientists and reading their abstracts.
Yeah, that's gonna be great. Yeah, I feel bad that the only time I'll ever say this, that I feel bad for you being, all the way over there in Europe.
Yeah.
This is the one time it's inconvenient.
Yeah. The one time. I mean, it's always inconvenient for things based back home, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I can stay up until, or sorry, not stay up. If I can adjust my schedule to wake up at 3 in the morning so I can watch the Raptors win an NBA championship, then I can stay up until 3 in the morning to watch some awesome science talks.
Yeah, where there's a will, there's you know. You
Something,
know how that goes.
somebody said something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, sounds familiar. Cool. Well, thanks so much for being on. This was really fun, and I'm sure your talk is going to be awesome. I hope we didn't spoil too much.
Oh no, yeah. Well, there's much more coming, and and hopefully at least I'll get some fake laughter from the audience as opposed to
Nice.
your real chuckles. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna try to drink a pint of milk? Are you a milk drinker?
I don't like drinking just milk. Yeah, I like almond milk and soy milk. So
Okay.
that is actually a big like it's probably going to be the biggest worry on my mind is what do I actually have in my glass? Yeah, because it'll be 9:30 at night for me still.
Yeah.
But the audience, I don't know. Do you have any recommendations?
I mean, just have some warm milk. Just heat it up on the stove.
Yeah, I know. Probably for the effect, I might just have to do milk at least or maybe I'll do like coconut milk mixed with rum.
Ooh, yeah,
Not tell anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, some sort of creamy drink. Get a White Russian going.
Right. Yeah, that will look like milk, and nobody else has to know.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do for the next cocktail of science thing. The White Russian and why your milk doesn't curdle.
Ooh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then you should do recommendation. Then you should do one where you have the drink that you purposely curdle in your mouth before drinking. Have you heard of that one?
Wait, no. You curdle it in your mouth?
Oh yeah, my friend's dad was a bartender, and he had made this drink for us one time in university. It's like some sort of lime juice, and it must be something milky. And you're supposed to like take the shot and like shake it around in your mouth for effect first. I don't know why I agreed to this, but this is apparently a thing. So
wow.
Yeah.
So much texture, just delicious.
Yeah, I know. I don't generally like texture in my drinks, but
it's good mouthfeel. I think that's the expression.
Right.
All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna let you go. Thanks again for being on. This was really fun. And
yeah, for me too. Thank you.
Good luck with your talk and preparing and all that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna stop recording.